Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I just want to start by saying thanks so much for just taking your time. I know there's a lot going on just personally, academically. So this is a really, great time just to carve out just this hour to set aside to really focus on taking some time to consider applying for scholarships. I'm really thankful that, there's so many staff and faculty that are willing to come and share with you guys just knowledge of, the scholarship process to really help you guys feel comfortable applying. So again, like Brian shared, please feel free if you guys have, any questions, go ahead and just drop them in the chat box and we'll go ahead and address it for you. I really want to make sure that, you're walking away understanding what the application process looks like. And this is really a time for you to, address any questions that you may have. So just to start, scholarships are a way that can help you on top of additional financial aid, such as grants and loans. Scholarships are a great way to help supplement just your educational costs that you have here on campus. So it's basically a way to get free money that you don't have to pay back to help pay for your tuition, for any educational costs that you have associated with being a student, which we know are many. It's very high in terms of the need. So I'm really glad that you're here with us today as we go over just the different types of scholarship opportunities available for you. I'll be going over just an overview of our Spartan scholarship application. This is where we'll be spending the majority of our time today. And then lastly, just some tips and pointers just to help you, kind of understand how to get started on the process and just any helpful information that, Danielle can share with us along the way. That would be just really informational, just good information for you guys to have as you go through the process. So our Spartan scholarship application, it will be opening this year in March. So please mark your calendar for a time to check back on our financial aid and scholarship website. That is the link right here that you'll see. We actually went through just an overhaul of our financial aid office website. So it will actually look a little bit different than this snapshot here because this is the first year that our website has gone through just a new look. It will look a little bit different, but there will still be a link that says apply for scholarships, for SJSU scholarships. So just be on the lookout for that. So our application will open. Right now, we're aiming for about mid-March. So just keep an eye out for that. And a deadline this year will be May 15th. Okay, so May 15th will be the deadline to have your application submitted. So the Spartan Scholarship application, these are scholarships that you will be applying for the fall 2021 to spring 2022 academic year. Okay, so the application that you submit now will put you in the eligibility pool for scholarships for the next academic year. Okay. Once you click on that button to log in to access your application, you'll see the screen here where you sign in with your personal SJSU ID and password that you use. This will open up for you your own personalized scholarship application that is tailored specifically to you. So what's great about the application is that it is almost like a one-stop shop where you are able to submit one application to be placed in the pool for all of our campus-based scholarship opportunities. So what that means is when you submit this one application, you're automatically put into be selected to be matched with the criteria for our campus-based scholarships. So for example, we match criteria such as your GPA, your specific area of study, your units what level you are, whether freshman, sophomore, junior. We offer scholarships across all levels. So whether you're an undergraduate, graduate, this is an opportunity for you to apply for scholarships across all levels. So it's nice because you won't have to go in and select, each opportunity that fits for you in terms of the campus-wide scholarships. However, once you submit that general application, is what we call it, there will be a second page of scholarships that are called recommended opportunities. Just like the name states, they're recommended. So what that means, these are scholarships that our system can't automatically match you for because they have certain criteria, such as being a single parent, right? So that's something that there are different things that our system wouldn't be able to specifically match you for. Maybe there's a scholarship for students who have overcome cancer or are currently, have been diagnosed. So there are certain scholarships that have what we call just more specific criteria, where these will show on that second list of recommended opportunities. It gives you the chance as a student to look through each one of them and to see, do I meet this scholarship criteria, right? So we'll list for you the different criteria there. And then if you do meet those specific application requirements, you can then submit an application specific for those scholarship opportunities. So you'll see those two categories. You'll see first your general application, which once you submit puts you in the pool for all campus-based scholarships. And then you'll see a second page of recommended opportunities. These will be scholarships that you were not automatically matched for, but will have just more specific criteria that you can look through. And if you meet these criteria, please submit an application for it. And then thirdly, on the third section, there will be scholarships that are offered by departments. These are scholarships that will be specific to your major and the specific school that you fall under. So the good thing is the College of Education does use our scholarship portal. So this will definitely be a one-stop shop for you in terms of being able to use the application to look for the campus-based and the department-based scholarships as well. So you'll be able to see a tab on there that has scholarships that are specific for your area of study as well. It's important to just always check back regularly, as there may be some additional scholarships or just updates to deadline dates. So make sure that you are just keeping track and just periodically checking your application portal once it does open up. Okay, so those are kind of the different scholarships that you will see on your portal. So it's important that you just periodically check and make sure that you're meeting all of the deadline dates. So May 15th will be the deadline date for the campus-based, and then each recommended opportunity and the department that you fall under will have their specific deadline date as well, which will fall within that March to May 15th period. So just to also keep in mind, as departments manage their scholarships, and many will use our portal, it's important to always just check in with them, just to see if there are any additional scholarship or any other just funding opportunities that may be held at the department level that are not offered through our Spartan scholarship application. So right now is actually really a great time to reach out to your department and just, any area that you're involved in on campus, an organization, or if you're working with the faculty, to see, are there any other sources of funding right now that are available, that you can apply for or that you should be aware of, that can help you in addition to applying for the scholarships through the Spartan portal. At this point, are there any questions that you guys may have?
Sorry, I joined in late. I totally forgot. I want to know, did you mention the deadline or not yet?
Oh, yes, definitely. No problem. Thank you for joining. So deadline for our SJSU Spartan application for our campus-based scholarships will be May 15th. However, there are different what we call recommended opportunities. And also each department has their specific deadline dates, which will show on the application once you log in March. That could be earlier than May 15th, but majority of the deadline dates will fall on May 15th.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No problem. So there is a third category of scholarships that would be good to take a look at. These are what we call private-based external scholarships. These are offered by private organizations and outside companies that offer just a vast array of different types of scholarships that are not necessarily associated specifically with SJSU. However, they are still offered to students that are attending like a 4-year accredited university or college. So the majority of our students actually, their main source of scholarship funding comes from this external private-based scholarship area. We do have an external scholarship catalog that our office maintains that could be helpful for you as you start your scholarship search and as you kind of navigate through looking for external scholarships. So definitely utilize our external catalog. What's nice about external scholarships are they're offered year-round. So as our SJSU scholarships, they may have, kind of a spring timeline where, before summer, you need to have the application submitted. With external scholarships, you could be applying all year round. So that's the great thing. You can even be looking for scholarships for those of you who need funding still for spring 2021. There are definitely still scholarship organizations out there even now that you could be submitting applications for to receive scholarships for this semester as well. So as they're offered year round, it allows you to kind of widen your scholarship search. And also there are so many different types of organizations out there. As each of you have, different backgrounds and, different areas of study and studies and just different interests. This is a great way for you to kind of, hone in on just more unique traits about yourself that you can look for scholarships for, and kind of be just a little more creative in, how you want to just search and match yourself for scholarships.
Hey, Christine.
Yes.
We had one question come through the chat.
Okay.
Do you have to fill out the FAFSA in order to be considered for the scholarships?
Okay, that's a really good question. So yes and no. So to explain that, the FAFSA application and the scholarship application, they are two different applications. So I highly recommend that you do submit both. The FAFSA application will qualify you for what we call financial aid. What that encompasses are things like grants, loans, work study. These are all part of the FAFSA application. Just a note to, for the next academic year, the FAFSA application deadline is coming up soon, March 2nd. So please do make sure that, if you are planning to get financial aid for the next academic year, you don't want to miss that March 2nd priority deadline. So please do mark that on your calendar to get that FAFSA application submitted. In terms of the scholarship application, there are two different types of scholarships. They fall into categories based on what we call financial need. So there's one category that's called financial need scholarships and then merit-based scholarships. So merit-based scholarships, just as the name sounds, we look at strictly, your academic performance, any supplemental information you submit, such as personal statement, the different organizations and leadership skills you have, resume, versus financial needs scholarships. that do take a look at your financial need eligibility. So in order to qualify for those financial need scholarships, you would need to have what's called a FAFSA on file, so that our office can determine your financial needs status. So I do recommend that you submit both. So although you can still submit a scholarship application without submitting a FAFSA, that would basically disqualify you from any need-based scholarship opportunities. So it's good that you submit both.
And actually, I have a follow-up question to that, if that's okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. So I did fill out the FAFSA, as you mentioned, just to be safe, right? And so I noticed that for the FAFSA for this year, we had to based off our taxes from 2019. And so obviously it doesn't reflect my current, from last year, right? That I haven't been working due to the pandemic. So how can I make sure that I communicate that? Do I have to communicate that with you all, especially financial aid office, just to really be able to make sure that you guys really capture my current status, if you will, rather than from 2019, which obviously was different from last year for me. How can I go about that?
Right, that's actually a really good question. I know especially, many of you have been impacted by COVID-19 and, just with everything going on. And so there is a process that the financial aid office has that's called the special circumstances review. So this is an opportunity for students to, if they would like to go through the special circumstances process where we are basically allowing you to submit documentation for us to take into consideration to use, either the 2020 or 2021 tax information year instead of the 2019 tax information to award you financial aid. So what that means is it's still early on. However, if this is a process that you would like to go through to kind of, share more about, maybe just job loss or just impacts to your just financial status that has happened within the last year or two, that's something that you can definitely reach out to our office. You can just send us an email. Our email is, I'll list our contact information at the end of this presentation, but it is fao@sjsu.edu. Just send us an email and let us know that you did want to go through the special circumstances process. We do list the types of documents and just what the process looks like on our financial aid website. So you can also just do a quick search of the special circumstances review and we outline for you kind of what that process will look like. But yes, there is definitely the opportunity to have another year, another tax year considered for your financial aid eligibility. The FAFSA application just across the board uses what we call prior year. So that's why we ask for 2019 tax information to award you for the 21 to 22 academic year. So if you would like to have your 2020 tax information considered, that is something definitely we can do for you. We would just have to go through that process together with you. It is still early on, but definitely reach out to us. I would say maybe late spring or early summer, and we can give you more information on that process.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Were there any other questions associated just with these external scholarships or in general, the FAFSA or the scholarship application at this point? No? Okay, great. So I do want to just make you aware of some things to look out for when applying for scholarships that are associated with what we call just scholarship scams. A lot of scholarship opportunities, they may ask you for things that they shouldn't be asking you for, or they might not be a legitimate scholarship possibility for you. So make sure you just do a thorough search. Of course, if it's a accredited organization or it's a accredited company, then you will be fine. But just make sure they're not asking you for just personal information like your bank accounts, credit cards, social security numbers. There shouldn't be any additional fees that you need to submit, other than the application itself. So just make sure that you're really looking into the company or the organization that you're submitting the application for, if it's not already a well-known company out there. If you ever have any questions, you can always just send me an email as well. Actually, Brian, can you share my email if that's possible in the chat for the students? That way you guys can have it as well. You can always just feel free to directly email me as well.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so how to get started. So with all of these, scholarship opportunities that you have, whether it be the Spartan application or external scholarships, or you're working on, submitting just funding opportunities with your department, I know it can get overwhelming, on top of just, studying and working and, day-to-day life. So what I recommend is to really stay organized. I think that's the key in not getting overwhelmed and just taking it, section by section, piece by piece, giving yourself just leeway time to get things submitted. Just really taking advantage of, spreadsheets, Excel, I think is, Google Drive, just really take, a hold of these resources. Set up for yourself maybe just a calendar or a checklist item that can help you stay on top of the different requirements, such as personal statement, recommendation letters. There's different deadline dates. So you want to create a way that works for you, whether you use a spreadsheet or a calendar, just to stay on top of just keeping track of the different requirements that will be asked for you. Another thing that's really helpful to start even now before the application opens would be to start what I like to call an accomplishments resume. So this is a way for you to kind of just start, putting together what I like to call accomplishments. So this can range, they can be personal, they can be academic, things, even that you're participating in now. So maybe classes that you're involved in now that you realize like, wow, this is really, an area that I want to pursue in terms of career-wise, that has really helped spark and shape the direction you want to go into. Have there been any leadership opportunities that you've been a part of, different clubs, different organizations? When people hear the word leadership, it doesn't necessarily mean, always just, being, the president of a club, even just participating, maybe there was recently a group project that you've worked on, with other classmates. Was there, another webinar, during COVID that you attended with, the College of Education that you found really just inspirational? Just personally, are you helping out at home? What does your time outside of school look like? Are there volunteer, activities? Are you, involved in the community? Are you, a breadwinner for your family? What does your accomplishments resume say about who you are at the end of the day, right? We want to know, beyond what the committee sees on paper, like your GPA and your major, just who you are as a student. And so all of these things, I feel like for students, when they have to sit down and start writing, they get kind of overwhelmed because they don't know where to start, what to share, how much. So it's good that you start just, it doesn't have to be anything formal, but just, bullet points about things that you're involved in, things that, come to mind that you would want to share with the committee.
Oh, can I chime in, Christine?
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So as Brian mentioned earlier, so I'm Danielle Mead-Nyko, and I've been serving on the scholarship committee for within the college since 2017. So I've seen hundreds of applications, and I will just point out, as Christine was mentioning about the accomplishments resume. Again, it doesn't always have to be, just like she said, a daunting task. This could also be, you know, even within CHAD, for example, and child and adolescent development, we have several undergraduate courses that require service learning, for example. And so working with, you know, community partners, and, you know, maybe there's a set number of hours, you know, 15 hours, 20 hours, or perhaps talking about your practicum hours. These are the types of things that you can also list. I think sometimes our students forget that that's also serving the community. And so especially when sometimes our students enjoy the experience so much that they even do above and beyond the minimum requirement. So let's say the requirement was 15 hours, but you enjoyed it so much, you completed 20 hours in the semester and you kept going throughout the summer, right? These are the things that you should also be highlighting, really just sharing how much you're also involved. And it also doesn't always have to be tied in with school, just like Christine was saying about what may be going on in your own personal life, but people have also, you know, provided insight. Maybe you're a youth sports coach, right? Or maybe you were in a past life before COVID. You know, these types of things also matter, how much involvement. So that's typically one of the early questions that we see on the reviewer side, is kind of list out, you know, how actively you're involved, either, you know, with school, but also even off campus. So just make sure to try to highlight that, because again, we're getting a sense of who you are as a whole person, not just who you are within school involvement, but also if you're an active community member in a different light, we want to know that too.
Great, thanks so much,
Back
Danielle.
to you, Christine.
Thank you. So definitely, like Danielle said, you know, share who you are, and it's a holistic view of who you are as a student. So definitely, you know, we want to know beyond just you know, academics, you know, who you are and what makes up you as a student. And so this is a great way for you to just start jotting down some things that come to mind, you know, and even just day-to-day things, you know, that you know, you may not realize like, oh, this is a big part of my life, but that is something that we would want to know, and definitely just start jotting that down. Another important just thing to keep in mind is just to apply for all the scholarships that you are eligible for. You know, I know there's a lot out there, and you know, the more you apply to and the more applications you put in, it just, you know, gives you a greater chance of successfully achieving, you know, a scholarship. So definitely, you know, apply. I think there were just some testimonials from students in the past where they share, you know, they didn't really know, you know, much about scholarships, but they just submitted an application. You know, they worked hard on it and they submitted it, and then, you know, they were contacted, you know, a few months later. Oh, you know, congratulations, you know, you received a scholarship. And so, you know, it does pay off the time that you put in. So I do recommend, you know, if you you know, have the time and the resources that you can just carve out to really focus on, you know, working on a strong application, and, you know, not being scared to just submit, you know, the applications that you are eligible for. You know, again, just don't miss the deadlines. You know, May 15th will be the general application deadline, and keep track of the ones within your major, your department, any outside scholarships. Lastly, just following directions. Our scholarship application will have what's called a personal statement link. I know a lot of times, sometimes students want to go beyond that, but highly recommended that you stay within that specified essay length. You know, if we're asking for 500 words, you know, please, to the best of your ability, stay within the 500 word length. Our system will actually cut off anything that's beyond, you know, that 500. So just as an FYI, you know, if you're copying and pasting in your personal statement, make sure that, you know, you read it through, everything got pasted correctly, and make sure that, you know, you're staying within that essay length. And then also some of our scholarships, I'll go over it later in the presentation, but they do require recommendation letters. So make sure that you're following through, and if they're asking for one or two, you know, you stay within the requested amount of recommendation letters as well.
Oh, and sorry, can we
Oh
Okay.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, anytime.
Oh, and I guess you're gonna mention this again too. So yeah, just being mindful again about following the directions. Again, just like Christine said, you've got 500 words, and yeah, try to use them wisely. Try to make sure that you've put some thought into it and that it's got good structure and good flow. But again, if you are only giving us 100 words, we're going to know less about you, right, by definition. So, you know, sometimes students will just write, you know, 2 or 3 sentences. It's much harder for the reviewers, the people who are reading through all of the applications, to really, you know, it's harder to find out, like, you know, who you are and how this scholarship may mean to you or what you plan to do in the future. So just be mindful of that. Just try to think about, you know, what do you want someone who's reviewing this to know about you, and try to help that guide you. You're already on top of things by attending this workshop today. So just kind of be mindful of that and share that also with your peers. If you know of other people who are planning to apply, again, just, you know, what you write is the only part that the reviewers get to see. So try to make sure to really sell yourself, and to kind of stick to that, you know, really aim for that 500 words to give yourself enough space to actually tell us more about who you are as a whole person.
Yeah, actually, Danielle, so sitting on the committee, you know, to read and review scholarship applications, you know, are there just some tips maybe you can provide to students about, you know, what the committee looks for? And, you know, I know you just read through so many, like hundreds and hundreds of these, kind of what, you know, helps them, like helps the students stand out a little bit maybe?
Sure. So one of the things that I think is most uncomfortable for people, I myself am included in this, is trying to sell yourself. So you really want to brag about yourself, brag about you, brag about your accomplishments. It may make some people very uncomfortable doing that. Like, oh, I was always told I'm not supposed to do X, but here we actually want you to. We want you to stand out. We want to see just, you know, again, we want to find out who you are as an individual, and we want to know what the context is. So like someone had shared earlier, you know, being impacted by COVID is going to have an impact on the person reading your application, right? So if we all of a sudden find out that you have lost your job, that you're helping care for, you know, you had to move back in, let's say with family, and you're tutoring your younger siblings while also maintaining a full course load. And you still, let's say, got, I don't know, a B average. Like that is something that should be celebrated, and you should brag about that, right? Of trying to help us understand what's the context, what is going on with you in your life. So trying to brag, as uncomfortable as it may be. And again, make yourself, do whatever you can to like make yourself stand out. Again, if you're reading lots and lots of examples, if you're sharing something, you know, that's personal, that's meaningful, that again has crafted who you are, like let's say you're talking about someone, you know, a past teacher who was such an amazing inspiration for you to want to pursue, you know, higher education and become a teacher. Or maybe you were volunteering and working with an individual kid, and it kind of opened your eyes to the needs of special needs kids, and now you're so committed to working, you know, and serving that population. You know, tell us this stuff, and those types of details, being as specific as possible, are what sticks. You know, by saying, oh, you know, I was really inspired by the student who talked about, you know, the loss of their parent, how that, you know, really crafted them to want to become a counselor, because of students who are dealing with grief, right? So really painting that narrative, painting that picture, just like the slide is saying, personalizing the essay as much as possible is really what's going to help make you stand out. And also, I can't stress this enough, just please also proofread. I know you're probably sick and tired of hearing that as a student, but it really does matter. It tells us, the reader, that you took the time to read through this more than once, that you're taking it seriously. And also there's plenty of resources available for someone to look it over, whether it's going to the Writing Center, whether it's having a friend read through it, whether you're reaching out to perhaps someone who's writing you a letter of recommendation, have them read through it. it will help stand out in the long run as well. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Danielle. So we do have listed on the bottom of this slide just the personal statement prompts for our Spartan application. The departments may have additional questions that they ask you in addition to these that may be more focused on the donors intent for the scholarships, and maybe they want to know specifically more about your field of study or your major. But for the general application itself, these would be the 2 personal statements. So you can even now start working on crafting your personal statement. The first one would be to explain the importance of your major field of interest in today's society. So, as you can see, it's very broad. So it's really, we want to give you the flexibility to, be creative in how you want to address this question. But the biggest thing is always to tie it back to answering this question, right? So I think this is where really just using an outline, to kind of organize your thoughts and, to really use each word that you have within your personal statement to, make the most of it. This one is, I would say, the larger prompt, so it would have a 500-word maximum. We do have a supplemental question that just is more geared towards getting to know you more specifically as a student. So this is, what is your greatest strength and weakness? So this is one that we've used in the past just to get to know more about the student and, an area where you can kind of share beyond just academics and more just who you are as a person. So this will be at the 300-word mark. The second one, the one that's a little more personal, this could possibly change on our Spartan application, but these 2 are kind of just markers to help you kind of see what type of questions that we will be asking you, so you can just start to get a sense of putting together your application. So as Danielle shared, it's really important just to spend some quality time on this area of your application, as I would say it's probably the most important section. This is really, the committee will, see, your bio data and just get to the bottom and start reading your personal statement. And this is where, they really get to see who you are, beyond just the paper itself. And so, I really recommend to spend some quality time on the personal statement. I know it can kind of seem a little daunting to have to, add another, just paper or essay on top of everything you're doing. However, once you have a strong personal statement created, you can always reuse, that prompt that you have and just that essay that you put together for just future applications as well. So you can always just tailor and tweak, this year's essay that you put together, personal statement that you formulated. And the next year, when you apply for scholarships again, it gives you a great foundation to work off of, right? To either add or remove. And, so I think, not trying to be, too stressed out or overwhelmed with having to add something else to your plate, but really take this as an opportunity to, even just for yourself, sit down and put together this statement. And, you can always use for, if, some of you are planning to go, into pursue more education in the future, you'll always have this as kind of something to go back to use as a foundation.
Oh, and I'll also add, Christine, too. So when it comes to the personal statement, so that typically, again, is something that you're writing kind of, you can start working on it now and that you could reuse for future scholarship cycles, but also just be mindful too that just as you see on one of the prompts here of, make sure to tailor it to each application. So beyond just the personal statement, some scholarships will have very specific questions. So for example, there's one of the largest scholarships within our college is the Silker Scholarship, which specifically is talking about integrating the arts into education. So beyond this personal statement questions, when Christine was mentioning that here are some recommended opportunities for you to click on, sometimes those might have a separate prompt as well. And so if you're applying for that specific scholarship, you should also write about how you plan to integrate arts in your future careers. That's where we don't necessarily need you to copy and paste from your personal statement. Just make sure that if there are those subsequent prompts, that again, that you read them carefully and just make sure that you're addressing them. Some of our donors are, just like Christine mentioned earlier, some of the donors are specifically looking at, you know, are you coming from perhaps like a lower income background or single parenthood or something like that, where there's going to be a small box, and then again, you're specifically responding because that's what the donor has asked for. So you should make sure, rather than copying and pasting your 500-word personal statement, that you just boil it down to, yes, like I meet this criteria, and let me tell you a few sentences about why I am a good fit for this one scholarship. So again, there's this difference between the personal statement, which provides a nice holistic view of you, and what you're doing now and where you plan to go. But then there may also be these smaller prompts that might be a little bit more specific, like how do you plan to work in low income public education, like public schools within the Bay Area. So if you say, oh, I want to up and move to the East Coast and teach at a private school, that's obviously not aligned with what the donor is looking for. So just be on the lookout for those two.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Danielle. At this point, are there any questions that you guys may have for us, or any that have come through the chat, Brian?
None in the chat recently.
Okay. No questions? Okay. So I did want to just share, just some information regarding recommendation letters, as some of our scholarships, when you apply for them, you'll see a requested or required recommendation letter portion. I don't want this to scare you from, moving forward and, going through the process. I know when we see recommendation letter, it's like, who do we ask? And, so first, I think first step is if you see that there is a recommendation letter required, just check to see what type of recommender the scholarship is requesting. So it will list for you, if there is a specific group of individuals that you need to reach out to, such as it has to be, someone that's affiliated with San Jose State University, which at that point, you would want to reach out to a faculty member, a staff, a counselor, right? Someone who is working and, helping you with your educational goals here at SJSU. If there is no specific requirement to it being limited to San Jose State, at that point, feel free to reach out to maybe an employer or, a mentor you have, someone who can really affirm your, just characteristics as a student. However, I would highly recommend that, you first start with the San Jose State community first. I think it's always great to, have someone who's already a part of, the SJSU just community here on campus that can really affirm to your just involvement or, to you who you are as a student. I know that, sometimes it's a little bit intimidating to, ask for this type of request, but I do want to, help ease some fears in that, our faculty and staff on campus here, the community, they're aware, that our scholarships do require recommendation letters. So it won't come as, a shock to them if, you reach out and you do request, a letter from them. I think the biggest thing is really making sure that you ask in advance and you give them, just enough time to put together a strong recommendation letter and, to really first reach out and see if they are able to provide you a letter. Just in the midst of, COVID-19, the best way to do that would be really just to, I would say initiate an email. If you can reach out to them. I think some faculty may have virtual office hours, depending on how they have that time set up. But, however is best for you to, get in contact with them. First just reaching out, letting them know that you are going through the scholarship application process for SJSU, and it does require a recommendation letter. And if they would be able to, provide you a strong recommendation letter, you can let them know, the deadline, that they would need to submit it by. Once they, give you the okay, you can also, follow up with them and provide, maybe even just a little bit about yourself, right? So you're basically giving them what you want listed in your recommendation letter. So, even just maybe just some, just a few points about things you're involved in. If it was a class that you're taking with them, something that you are learning or something that you feel like, you're gaining from, this class that will help you to just pursue your, future goals of where you want to be career-wise. And so, just providing a brief biography about yourself can be really helpful so that, the faculty or staff can know more about you. What will happen is on the system itself, there will be a section for you to indicate that individual's name and email address. So once you input that electronically, it will send the recommender an email to that email address with a form that they would just submit online with your recommendation letter uploaded, and it will then automatically link it to your application online, your Spartan application. So that's kind of how the process works, is they'll get an automatic email once you input their name and email address. And then at that point, they can, submit, they can write it up and submit it based on, their availability, as long as it's by the deadline date. So I think the biggest thing is just to stay in communication with them, really asking first, if it's a possibility, and, if you get their approval, to, just follow up with them and send them, anything that they may need, you can just ask them and, is there anything that they can provide, that you can provide them that can help them just craft that recommendation letter for you. I'm not sure, Brian, Daniel, if there's something like coffee with faculty. I know in COVID, yeah, there's just so many different.
Yeah, in the past, back when we were in regular life, there used to be a coffee with the professor program where the university would provide actual gift cards that could be used on campus to maybe invite a professor to coffee. Shocker for the title of the program. And I always loved recommending that program to students when you're asking for something like a recommendation letter, just to be able to have a chance to sit down outside of the classroom and get to chat. So obviously we're in a virtual platform. So typically so far, what I've been doing since last March has been just asking, hey, let's have a Zoom session. Let's, chat for, 30, 45 minutes. And also, this is also helpful too, if let's say some time has passed, perhaps since you've had that particular professor, for example. So last year, last spring, I met with a student where it had been 2 semesters since I had seen her. So I remembered everything up until that point, but I hadn't touched base of like, tell me about what's going on now. So again, so that way I can help tailor it to you. You want to make sure, again, by providing, a little bit of a resume or maybe your personal statement, or again, just those lists of, maybe community service or volunteer opportunities, anything like that can help tailor that recommendation letter. So it's not just generic, right? And by having that kind of one-on-one session, again, it doesn't have to be long. It can sometimes be intimidating, but it's just beneficial all around, because then, wow, I talked with them for a while. I gave them all this information. By definition, that that's going to make that letter even stronger, because it's going to be more personalized and tailored to you and really try to highlight all of your strengths.
Awesome, thanks, Danielle. So I think it's also great because now you get to cultivate that type of, just academic relationship, and, just ask, if you have any questions, aside from scholarships, just, what that field is like. And, if you have any questions about, the area that this, particular professor or faculty member is in, right? I think it's a great opportunity to just foster that. So definitely just keep them updated with, after you submit the application, if you are eventually awarded the scholarship, I'm sure they would, love to hear, just the result of your application. And I think just also thanking them, just they, took time out of their, I'm sure busy schedules to, sit down and write this letter for you. So just making sure that you keep in communication with them and just following up with them, just very key. Okay, I know we're running short on time, so I want to just, this will be actually the last slide, but I just did want to just give an overview of what happens, after you submit your application. So selection committees will go into review mode once your application goes in. So by the end of spring, early summer, that's really when a lot of the departments on campus will go into selection process. For our SJSU scholarships, we do use that summer to select students, and then we will notify students either very late in summer or in fall semester of their selection of when they have received a scholarship opportunity. We do also let students know when the review process is over. That way, if you haven't received a email of congratulations, then that would mean that unfortunately, you weren't selected. But feel free always to reach out to me. I think Brian shared my email, for any updates on just the process itself for our review. Each department, has their own timelines that they use to notify students. So based on, the different departments across campus, most departments do also notify students of their awarding of scholarships by, I would say, the start of fall semester as well. So you'll hear back from most of the departments and the selection committees for the scholarships across campus, most likely end of summer, starting in fall semester. Some of our scholarships do require what we call like conditions of acceptance. So these would be, things such as, writing a thank you letter or attending an award ceremony. Some of our scholarships require you to maintain a certain GPA or a certain unit load for that academic year. So just be sure that you read through thoroughly what the award letter is stating. And, if you see any areas that, may conflict with, your status as a student, or you may not be able to fulfill, please make sure that you reach out as soon as possible to, inform us, because we would want to make sure that we work with you so that, you can receive the scholarship. And then just lastly, scholarship funds are, dispersed with your financial aid award as a whole. So any grants, loans, work study stipends that you receive, it all gets dispersed with your scholarship funds and applied to, any outstanding charges first on your student account. And then anything remaining will get sent to you as a refund, either as a check in the mail or direct deposit if you have that set up with the bursar's office. Okay, I'm so sorry, you guys. I know we're running short on time, so I'll just get to this last slide that lists our contact information. These are the different ways that you can access us. Right now, just because of COVID-19, best way would be live chat phones, and we now have virtual appointments that you can use. It's like a queue list tile on one SJSU. It's really nice. It's like a Zoom appointment, so you can automatically just talk to one of our financial aid counselors that way. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I will wrap up here. If you guys have any questions, And I'll hand it back to Brian too at this point.
A quick question. So, for example, if we qualify for any scholarships, will it be for this semester or is it for the next one? Because for this one we already paid. So is it for, so how does this work?
Correct. So that's a great question. So the scholarships you apply for will apply for the next academic year. So fall 2021, spring 2022.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem.
Thanks so much, Christine.